Night in Davos, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky piled on, begging European governments to understand they need to change their thinking about this American president.
Before we jump in, tell me where you're tuning in from. And remember to like and subscribe. Your support helps the channel grow and keeps these stories coming. For years, we've been told that tensions between Washington and Europe were just a rough patch, a disagreement here, a misunderstanding there, something that could be smoothed over with another summit, another statement, another photo op. But this week, that illusion finally collapsed. What you're about to hear isn't speculation or partisan spin. It's senior leaders, allies, and even America's closest partners openly acknowledging what many have quietly feared for a long time. The Transatlantic Alliance, as we've known it for generations, is no longer functioning, not strained, not evolving, broken. From Davos to Downing Street, from Canada to Ukraine, the message is suddenly blunt and unmistakable. The old assumptions no longer apply. Trust is gone. Rules are optional. And power, not partnership, is now driving decisions. This isn't about one speech or one policy. It's about a pattern of contempt for allies, disregard for facts, and a worldview that sees cooperation as weakness and loyalty as something to be demanded, not earned. Let's break this down calmly, clearly, and without the noise.
Finally, we can say it. The transatlantic alliance between the United States and Europe is over. Whatever the outcome of the very dubious compromise that may or may not be in the works over Greenland, and we will get to that, the week's events have dealt a mortal blow to any kind of future comity between America's allies and the Trump administration. Take a listen to Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney.
For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition.
Mr. Carney's speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos was an historic tour de force, and European leaders, including Sir Keir Starmer, may spend the rest of their lives explaining why it was left to Canada's Prime Minister to state the obvious rather than them. But whatever the case, Mr. Carney, and at least we can claim him as a former governor of the Bank of England, ended the pretense that it is possible to find compromise with the Trump administration, or even to trust them. Quoting the Athenian general Thucydides, he declared Canada's relationship with the White House dead.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. There is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't.
And last night in Davos, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky piled on, begging European governments to understand they need to change their thinking about this American president.
Instead of taking the lead in defending freedom worldwide, especially when America's focus shifts elsewhere, Europe looks lost, trying to convince the US president to change. But he will not change.
Trump himself made that clear all week long as America and the world marked only the first anniversary of his turbulent, exhausting return to office. At Davos, he made a devastating speech littered with lies, completely misrepresenting the history of Greenland, even suggesting entirely falsely that America owned it at the end of World War II, handed it over to Denmark, and now wants it back.
So we want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
It's part of North America, it's our territory, he claimed. He said he won't use force to seize Greenland, but we already know that whatever he says on any given day cannot be trusted. This is the same man, after all, who claimed last year that he backed the UK's decision to transfer the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, but this week blasted Number 10's plan as an act of great stupidity. He engaged in a litany of lies about climate change and efforts to combat it, about the health of the American economy, and he flayed Europe, claiming that because of mass immigration, and particularly the Prime Minister's refusal to drill for more North Sea oil, the UK, along with its neighbours, will soon be dead.
Certain places in Europe are not even recognizable, frankly, anymore. They're not recognizable. And we can argue about it, but there's no argument. And I love Europe, and I want to see Europe go good, but it's not heading in the right direction.
It is important to underscore that disdain and open hostility towards everything that the UK, Europe and Canada stand for lies at the heart of this second Trump term. And it was on open display in Davos, not only by the President, but by many of his top lieutenants. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent spent the week loudly complaining about Swiss food and pretended not to understand why the UK and 7 of its NATO allies were so furious over now shelved threats of tariffs because they oppose American ownership of Greenland.
Have an open mind that, why this rapid response in terms of, this is a no.
And while he was ordering European leaders to cut the histrionics and calling Denmark irrelevant, Trump's Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was causing consternation all over the Alpine resort as he threw his weight around. Here he is in a panel discussion on Tuesday, sitting right next to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves.
Can I bring you back to Greenland?
No. It's unnecessary. It's the Western Hemisphere is vital for the United States of America. Our national security people are on it, and they care about it, and I'm going to leave it to them to address with our allies, with our friends, and with everyone how they work it out.
Working it out would fall to the Trump whisperer within the Transatlantic Alliance.
So again, I'm not popular with you now because I'm defending Donald Trump, but I really believe we can be happy that he is there because he has forced us in Europe to step up.
NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte. Until he writes his memoirs, we will not know if the man who once called the American president Daddy is really a Trump fanboy or just plays one in order to save the world. But on Wednesday, he defused the Greenland time bomb after sitting alongside Trump and engaging in this ever-so-polite public pushback against some of the flagrant lies Trump had been telling about the alliance.
There's one thing I heard you say yesterday and today. You were not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will. And they did in Afghanistan, as you know, for every American who paid the ultimate, for every 2 Americans who paid the ultimate price, there was 1 soldier from another NATO country who did not come back to his family. From the Netherlands, from Denmark, particularly, from other countries. So you can be assured, absolutely, if ever the US will be under attack, your allies will be with you. Absolutely, there's an absolute guarantee. I really want to tell you this because it is important. It pains me if you think it is not. And under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever.
It's brilliant how he folds in the "under your leadership, this alliance is stronger than ever" nonsense in order to head off a possible Trump tantrum. It worked in the sense that their subsequent talks bought everyone some time over Greenland. Rutte, who said in the White House last year that NATO did not want to get dragged in to a conversation about Greenland, this week diverted Trump's attention away in the direction of the Arctic Circle, the two of them agreeing to negotiate a framework agreement that even by Wednesday night looked very much like a Trump climb down.
Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you've said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position.
So that'll be a no on the ownership of Greenland issue, although he is being offered sovereignty over land on which he gets to build new US military bases, but Denmark and the Greenlanders already say that's a non-starter. And when Trump realises the extent to which he was played this week by Rutte, Well, stand by for a lot more fireworks and fresh threats of tariffs. As for the Secretary-General's efforts to speak truth to power over NATO forces having America's back in Afghanistan, we already know that did not work.
We've never needed them. We have never really asked anything of them. You know, they'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little back, a little off the front lines. But we've been very good to Europe and to many other countries.
As infuriating and enraging as those comments on Fox News are, they underscore the fact that he is now incapable of stipulating to facts. Watching his 104-minute incoherent, rambling news conference at the White House on Tuesday, then the bilious, recalcitrant speech that he delivered in Davos, it is now clear that he cannot ever speak the truth on any issue. In his first term, facts and alternative facts, they tussled with one another for prominence. But this time round, we are completely fact-free, and not just at the White House, but on American television networks loyal to him as well. Watch what happened on Thursday night on Fox News. The host Jesse Waters anchoring, and I cannot stress this enough, the most watched primetime news program in America.
The deal right now, and it's still being hashed out, will give the United States pockets of sovereignty. Basically, huge chunks of territory run like American embassies all over the island. Right now, we just have one military base there. We'll be adding dozens more. If Greenland keeps behaving, we might let them have a hockey team. And maybe we'll film some movies up there, open up a Walmart. See that, Europe? That's good parenting. You behave, you get a treat.
Absolutely disgusting. 3 million people watching that on television. Trump has now pinned it to his social media account, where millions more are consuming it. I haven't got time to get into the Board of Peace this week, Trump's Dr. Evil effort to replace the UN Security Council and coin it in the process. But he disinvited Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney from joining last night, which must surely be a badge of honour to which we all aspire. It's been an awful week, and even at number 10 Downing Street, they must now know the party is over.
So, when you step back and look at everything we've just heard, the picture becomes impossible to ignore. This wasn't a bad week of messaging or a few clumsy remarks taken out of context. It was a sustained public demonstration of how far the relationship between the United States and its traditional allies has deteriorated. From Canada's Prime Minister openly declaring a rupture, to European leaders scrambling to contain damage rather than shape policy, the alliance isn't being managed anymore. It's being endured. And at the center of it all is a president who treats history as optional, facts as negotiable, and allies as obstacles rather than partners. The Greenland episode captured this perfectly, not because of its strategic complexity, but because of the mindset behind it. Sovereignty reduced to leverage, culture dismissed as irrelevant, democratic consent brushed aside in favor of raw power. And when those claims were challenged, the response wasn't clarification. It was threats, sarcasm, and retreat into fiction. What made this moment especially stark was the contrast. On one side, allies invoking shared sacrifice, mutual defense, and decades of cooperation. On the other, a White House that can no longer even acknowledge those sacrifices as real. When a leader can't accept that NATO forces died alongside American troops, or that facts exist independently of loyalty, trust collapses by default. This is why so many leaders now speak openly about a post-American security framework. Not out of hostility, but necessity. Because an alliance cannot survive if one partner insists the rules only apply when convenient. The uncomfortable truth is that this isn't a transition period. It's a break, and pretending otherwise only delays the reckoning. Europe will adapt. Canada already has. The world always adjusts to power shifts, but trust, once broken, doesn't quietly return. So the real question isn't whether the Transatlantic alliance can be repaired. It's whether anyone in Washington still believes it's worth repairing at all. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are we witnessing the end of an era, or just the beginning of a far more unstable one? And if you found this breakdown useful, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching The Caller Autopsy.